Devil leaned against the ice pillar, glancing at the door to Temperance's sanctuary every once in a while as he idly twirled his scythe in his hands. It felt wrong to let the trespassers in. Now having just killed them still bothered him and made his skin itch. But he knew Temperance, and usually he was one to let in anyone, no matter who they were or where they came from. Hell, that's how he came to be his guardian, just randomly positioned with Temperance, and he welcomed him as a friend almost instantly. He sighed through his nose, steam rising up from his nostrils from the conflicting temperature of breath and air. He was strong as well. He could take care of himself. He had nothing to fear. He had nothing to fear. With another moment of waiting, Devil pushed himself off of the pillar, going over to the door that separated the two rooms. While he liked to be in as much pitch-black darkness as he could manage going to Temperance's room if it meant he'd be safe, right? He set his hand on the door, pushing it up so he could go in. Devil! Devil gave a short gasp of being startled, the door going back closed as he whirled around. Even with the limited lighting, he could still make out the tall form of his master very easily. The glowing blue eyes also helped with that too. He bowed forward out of instinct. Master? Why the hell are they in Temperance's room? You were supposed to keep out all trespassers. Rev stepped forward, heading over until he was practically nose to nose with the pseudo-Russian. You hate them! You despise any stranger who set foot on your ground. Why them? They are enemies. They have killed our kind. Why are they here? Devil glanced away from the other's bright gaze, mostly out of his own comfort. He kept still, knowing better than to move away from him, as doing so would be a sign of disobedience. My misfits mistook one of them as me. I was not aware of their existence until they had arrived at the door. They beat me down and passed. End of story. No. I know you. You wouldn't have stopped until you were dead. Why are you not dead? I simply did not feel like dying. They held back despite everything I threw at them. I do not think they wished to hurt me. They kept saying they had a friend in that room. I suppose my doubt got the better of me. Devil tensed as his hair was grasped, Rev taking a step back to make some room between them so he could yank him forward. This was incredibly odd behavior. What could have brought this on? He winced in the tight grip, glancing up to see his so-called master's glinting white teeth grinning down at him. Do you realize what you've done? As we speak, those outsiders are beating Temperance. He wished I would not interfere, so I am refraining from the fight. But they are going to kill him, just as he did to Chariot. Chariot? Why was he involved? Wait a moment. Devil's eyes widened a little, looking up to the false American incredulously. They killed Chariot? Yes, they did. I saw it. Right in cold blood. They are doing the same to Temperance. They are going to kill him and steal away my wonderful brother along with them. Temperance will die. Rev kept Devil's head low, bending down just a little so he could talk to his ear. And it's all your fault! Without warning, Rev's claws pushed out through his seemingly human hands, spearing Devil in the head a bit before pulling him forward more to throw him on the ground. Devil grunted as he hit the ground, reaching up to touch his head, not even have to look to know it was bleeding profusely. His ears perked a bit, hearing the heavy footfalls of the other drawing nearer. Instead of just lying down and taking it, however, Devil rolled over to get back up on his feet, picking his scythe right up along with him. Rev raised an eyebrow, looking over him up and down. What do you plan to do with that, eh? Attack me? Try to slice and dice your master? I plan to live. Temperance will not die. I will make sure of that. You dumb shit. I can't be killed, but... Alright! Rev raised both of his hands, his claws growing onto his other hand as well. Have it your way, Devil! They both stood in anticipated silence for a bit, waiting for someone to make the first move. Devil dryly gulped, shifting his scythe up in a defensive position. He stared down at his smiling master for a while before he blinked, and the man had vanished. Devil glanced around him before he looked up, raising a hand for his misfits to rise from the ground, illuminating the room momentarily. In that moment, he hardly had a second to react, dodging to the left in time for Rev to nearly pierce his claws through his shoulder. He took a sharp breath through his teeth. While it fully not being impaled, it still struck his shoulder. As he regained his footing, he took a swing towards the dream creature, gritting his teeth at seeing the other jump over it so easily. He sidestepped over to keep his guard up, but with a quick flash, the other was gone again, and with another dodge roll came a now deep claw-marked streak across his side. Devil faltered, staring at Rev as he looked up at his slightly red hands. He pursed his lips, clicking his tongue once as he looked up to Devil, his eyes glowing behind his framed glasses. I could make this painless, Devil. If you just stay still, your head will be on the floor before you can count to 3. Won't the better punishment be to let me fester here with Temperance's corpse? He won't have a corpse. He'll be dead on the inside. All because of you. Devil furrowed his brows in confusion, but didn't really take much time to question it as he swung his scythe again. Rev giggled loudly as he jumped, noticing spikes erupting from the ground to wherever he would try to land. So where better to land than on Devil's blade? Devil staggered slightly at the added weight, dropping it to try to make the Reaper land in the spikes, but it would seem his feet were attached. Right. He controlled the physics here. Shit. With his moment of hesitation, Rev leapt forward from his spot on the blade, tackling Devil down, making sure both claws were out to thrust into the other's chest. Devil gasped as colors flashed in front of his eyes, his scythe slipping away from his grasp as the momentum plummeted him straight down to the ground. His eyes trailed down to the many spikes of fingers embedded into his chest. Rev grinned as he practically sat on top of him. Here we go! Let's get this over with. Rev noted, his tone not even sounding like anything was wrong with this scenario. Devil's chin quivered a bit unwillingly, the page surging through his body being hard to handle. He tried to take a deep breath to control himself, but before he had the chance to exhale, Rev pulled his hands in the opposite directions. With little difficulty, he tore his claws through his chest cavity, splitting it apart. Rev's eyes narrowed, looking for something specific in that now gored bloody mess he had his hands in. Perhaps he didn't have his claws deep enough to hit that part of him. But it didn't matter. His body wouldn't be long for this world. He slowly drew his claws out, pushing himself up and seeing Devil uselessly covered in both blood and tears on the floor as he just struggled to keep awake. There. That should teach him. If Canada couldn't be happy here, and Temperance had to die from it, then he had to suffer the same fate. It was only fair and equal. His death is inevitable. I have the chance to trap them so they won't hurt anyone else. Their so-called magic will fade in time, and they'll be kicked out. Then, they can't touch any of us anymore. Yes, good plan. And if this place does fall on them, well, even better. It'll be a shame, but it'll be something. The fake American waved a little down to Devil one last time before fading away. The Arcana was left there covered in red, sniffing noisily as he tried to breathe deeply with his surprisingly intact lungs. He felt cold, colder than any ice he had ever conjured, but that beast of a master was planning on destroying this place. Even if Temperance was going to die, he still had to get out. But he was on death's doorstep. How could he? He looked around, seeing his circle of misfits close in around him, hovering around his weakening corpse. Perhaps he could buy some time. My friends, please, I want to save him. Let me have your warmth. Let me have your light. Please, let me save him. The orbs of fire seemed to tilt in thought with the idea, rotating slightly as if to look at each other questioningly. But within only a couple of moments, they pushed up against each other, one swallowing another and so on before becoming a large flame. The large flame slowly descended onto Devil's body, consuming it in its fire, slowly being absorbed into the Arcana's form. Devil winced at the light, squeezing his eyes tight. Even behind shut eyes, everything was white, and everything was warm. He couldn't feel the ground under him any longer, almost being weightless. Was he too late? Was he already dead? Hesitantly, he opened his eyes, blinking before having them widen. His head was resting on Temperance's lap, under the snow-powdered tree. The violet-eyed Canadian smiled warmly down to him, reaching up to comb his bangs away from his eyes. Is this any better? Temperance? I know you don't like the light. That's why you always stay in your cave, right? Maybe this tree's shade can help. Devil frowned a little, opening his mouth to speak, but slowly closing it as Temperance hummed softly while he fussed with his hair a little more. He was back in his room, where the only amount of sunlight could come in at all. He hated the sun. It was too bright, and it felt like it burned his flesh. The only warmth he could handle was from his drops of fire that followed his every command. Or, at least, that's what he always thought. When he was reassigned to watch over Temperance, that started to change. Temperance would sneak away to go greet him in the darkness, to talk to him despite being left in a frightfully dark chasm. Soon he was convinced to visit Temperance in his home. He could hardly get past the front door, the first few times, only being able to manage a few steps before having to retreat back into the dark. But then one day, Temperance took him by the hand and rested him under the tree, just like this. Devil dryly gulped, slowly realizing this must have been a dream, or some sliver of his life was flashing in front of his eyes. He wanted to raise a hand to touch him, but he couldn't feel his body at all. All he could do was stare up at him, the one man who held all the warmth of the sun in his smile. Even he could have managed to bear looking at the sun, if it played off of his hair. "I'm sorry, Temperance." He could still talk. He might as well get this out there. "I'm sorry for not being able to help you. I was useless and let you be killed. It's all my fault." Temperance paused, his smile faltering for a moment. He sighed through his nose, glancing up and away towards the sky, past the branches of the tree before looking back down at him. His eyes seemed to glisten a little. "Devil, don't worry about me. I'm not dead. I just have a higher calling to get to. I'm fine with this." The Russian blinked. Wait, was this his own mind filling in the words, or was Temperance actually talking to him? He opened his mouth to object, but paused at Temperance sifting his fingers through the other's wheat-colored hair once again. "This was fun. I wish we could have had a longer time to be in each other's company. But I want to ask you something before we go." "Yes, anything." "Could you please look after them?" "Them?" "Yes, them. The outsiders. I've heard they're pleading all they want to be is with their loved ones again. I can't bear to think of what they could be going through. Master is not in his right mind any longer. I cannot help any longer as well. Take care of them." "But they killed you." Temperance softly chuckled, leaning his head down to rest against Devil's forehead. The larger man sighed a little in relief, the other skin feeling so warm against his own chilled flesh. "I keep telling you, I'm still here. You'll see me again very soon. The rest of us might be hurting just as much, if not from being away from their loved ones, but from Master having lost whatever moral compass he has left." "No, I have to. I don't want to leave." Devil's vision became blurred as his eyes started to water. No matter how many times Temperance said it, he knew the Temperance he knew would no longer be around once this vision was over. He could just stay resting on his lap, to stay in that utopia he didn't have enough time to be in. He felt Temperance shift his head, his cheek now resting on Devil's forehead, moving it a little in an attempt to nuzzle against him. "We'll see each other again very soon. I'll be here. You'll be here. We will both take care of everyone. But they need you right now." Never in his life did he want to move as badly as he did right then. He was still useless in his spot, just being cuddled into by this personification of kindness and warmth. Leave it to him to feel compassion for the ones who led to his demise. He took in a deep breath through his nose. His orders were clear. What he needed to do now was secured. "Maester is going to destroy the palace." "Yes." "I need to help them." "Yes." "I want to see you again." "You will." Temperance leaned his head up a little, smiling down at him before reaching forward a bit more. Devil's eyes felt a bit heavy, letting them close shut as he felt a faint warmth on his lips. The world around him became white again, hearing only vague voices from afar. "Take care of them. Please. We will see each other again. I promise." Slowly, Devil opened his eyes again, darkness surrounding him. He grit his teeth as he pushed himself to sit up. There were no flames to see anywhere around him, and he was once again on the floor of the ice cavern. He tapped his chest, feeling no injury on it whatsoever, or anywhere else on him for that matter. The blood, however, stayed. Carefully, he pushed himself onto his feet, wobbling a little as he heard the sound of the door opening. Bloody hell! He looked up, seeing the gaggle of trespassers from earlier, managing to stabilize himself as his doppelganger approached him worriedly. Devil didn't exactly keep his focus on him, however, noticing a familiar pair of violet eyes staring at him from behind the man with the large eyebrows. Temperance. What happened? Devil's brows furrowed a bit, seeing the man with the sunshine eyes straighten up a bit at being stared at. He wasn't lying. He was different now. That must have been the host that took over his body. Temperance was in there, just like he said, but he was not dead. Not yet, anyway, and he was going to keep it that way. He himself, meanwhile, had a promise to keep. Follow me, if you want to get out of here alive.